So, Paul, speaking of CEOs with a lot on their plates, it's been 8 months.
That's right.
How you doing?
First of all, good. I mean, eight months in anything, you're still in the honeymoon period. Let's be very clear with that. But you walk into this environment and the magnitude of change and opportunity, and frankly, Justin, that's how I'd summarize it. Even over the last couple of days here, if anything, it's opportunity and optimism. So it's good. It's good.
Good. So, obviously, the thought on everyone's minds here in Davos is the yesterday's moment and transition in America, and entering into this new phase. You talk to CEOs, you advise CEOs all around the world. What are you saying to them at this very moment about the future?
Well, let me start this way. Can any of us predict exactly what's going to happen? Of course not. But what we can all certainly circle around are the topics where we need to run scenarios and be prepared. And the topics that we spend the most time talking about are, we talk tax policy, we talk trade policy, we talk industrial policy, we talk regulation. And so where we are advising our clients is, don't solve for one outcome, run scenarios, leverage data that's at your disposal, use trade policy as an example. We have an intelligent tool leveraging customs and trade data, which can already tell our companies, our clients, where their products are, how you might need to scenario plan, how that might impact your geolocation strategy and how you source materials. And so it's those topics. It's tax, it's trade, it's industrial policy, it's regulation.
And speaking of regulation in that environment, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that companies are aiming to make some big moves potentially because of the change of the regulatory environment. What's your view on the M&A outlook?
Well, first, fingers crossed. I am very pleased to see that the conjecture, I'd say, from the administration, but equally from corporate America and multinational clients operating in the States, is certainly one of pro-growth and an expectation for growth, directing investment into the country and putting that money to work. If we look at deals backlogs, and I mean our own, so pipelines as it relates to deals, IPOs, M&A transactions, debt and equity underwriting transactions, we see a healthy pipeline. And so my expectation, my hope is that we will continue to see a bit more confidence in the ability to get some deals done. And that alone will enable companies to progress themselves in terms of their own reinvention. It'll allow them to deal their way into, in some cases, lofty valuations. And I do think that we'll have to see some bridging of today's valuations versus where companies will transact. But we see opportunity. And certainly I expect the back half of this year we'll begin to see a bit more volume.
Right. And so the inflation picture, as everyone knows, is sort of mixed. Obviously, rates have been coming down, but they're expected also to remain elevated for a while. What's your view on this sort of mixed picture for business investment going forward, especially especially if inflationary headwinds grow again?
It's a topic, Justin, that's come up this week a decent amount as well. And on one hand, we see potentially opportunity as it relates to tax policy making, what that may do for rate. Yes, we have rates where they are today, but they are transactable where they are today. I think there is some degree of what happens if tariffs drive inflation higher, what happens when you have the refinancing of private capital, or private credit as it comes due, particularly in terms of the pressure that may place on small and medium-sized enterprises. But that being said, the attitude of CEOs broadly is one that this is a market with stability that can be transacted in. And so we expect that. We'll see what happens with inflation, but companies are well prepared to not only navigate, but also deal into the environment as it shapes up.
So we wouldn't be Davos 2025 or 24 if we didn't talk about AI. And I guess the challenge of this micro moment is how do we have an original conversation about it?
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's what PwC is thinking hard about. As this seismic technological shift takes place, what are you advising businesses that's distinctive or original or different, do you think?
Well, and good question on distinctive, original, or different. But I'll tell you what certainly is lands as top of the table in terms of where attention goes. First, make no mistake, the technologies we all know are powerful, and we believe that we will live into opportunities that we can only imagine today. But I like to think of it as, look, to maximize where we're going to go, there is a bit of a yin and a yang here. There's the technology, but there is the human element. And our belief is if you do not harness the power, upskill your professionals, put tools and assets and accelerators in hands, well, then you're not going to get the outcomes that you would otherwise expect. We published our latest CEO survey last night. And if you looked at the survey data last year, something like 46% of CEOs projected profitability contributions from AI in 2024. The actual result was closer to 34%. So 46% projected profitability contributions, 34% believe they realized. If you look at that a year later, so in this survey, it's 49% are projecting meaningful profitability contribution from AI. My view is 12 months later, what have CEOs certainly appreciated? It is the power of the human connection and therefore the requirement for expecting, expressing, measuring the outcomes of human adoption, what that means not only for incrementalism as it relates to improving the things that we do, our own workflows, but frankly to pulling things and outside of incremental and solving the hard. And that's what we're beginning to see, is we're seeing companies begin to solve the hard challenges, the new opportunities that will drive revenue growth and ultimately profitability. And so I am bullish in terms of what the next 12 to 24 months will generate. I am a believer that we will see the power of machines surpass human capabilities in the next 12 to 24. And in my mind, that then means humans express themselves exponentially, leveraging those technologies, and we're in for some good days.
So last question, it's a great privilege to talk to a new CEO, the fresh CEO, one because we certainly have those that have been around for a while. And I'm just curious, as you entered this role, you're 8 months in, you're running one of the biggest global companies in the world. Do you have sort of a modern frame on leadership as it relates that you were sort of thinking about, or how are you thinking about the evolution of leadership for your generation of new CEOs relative to the previous ones, and then also relative to the obviously incredibly complex environment that exists?
Well, I will tell you that, and this is probably more perspective from Paul rather than perspective associated with PwC directly. But I do believe that leadership starts with the building of a great team and creating the space, within your team to build a degree of trust and familiarity and comfort, which, by itself to me becomes a multiplier as it relates to applying, developing, delivering into your strategy. And so we spend a lot of time, and I'll tell you, I have spent a lot of time on the front end, not only, selecting people that I truly believe in, but then building camaraderie so that we break down the walls that get in the way of information flow. I'm a big believer in, bad news does not travel well, and so let's allow it to travel quickly. And to me, the only way for that to happen is to have a hyper-connected team, not only your direct leaders, but then cascading that into your organization. And so what we at PwC spend a lot of time on is evaluating the whole professional, not just your technical performance or what you deliver or your sales goals, but how you deliver it. And so we measure the behavioral elements as much as we do the tangible, tactical, KPIs that drive our business. So Justin, that's what I would say. To me, authentic leadership means direct personal relationship and connection. It means the phone calls happen, not the emails and texts. And to me, the way you get there is you get there through building familiarity, comfort, and trust with your people.
Great. Well, that's quite inspiring. So thank you, Paul.